So I see you've got, so for the folks that are going to watch this on the YouTube video, and the folks who are not watching it on the YouTube, y'all need to run over to the YouTube and check it out. You got some gold records back there, and you've got I don't know if that's a platinum CD or something above your head. What are those two gold, see, an album and a 45?
The 45 is I'd Really Love to See You Tonight. And I consider that my first gold record, because that was the first gold record that Dan and I got. But personally, on the back side of that 45 is a song called It's Not the Same. And I wrote that with Sonny Dalton, and then Dan came in and wrote a little bit on it too. And I considered I got my first gold record. It doesn't matter on the fact that it's on the back side of the thing that really got the gold record. I got a gold record too.
Hey, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters. And the big one is that was the first gold record that we got. There was an album, and it was the first gold record that Big Tree Label got as a label. And the funny story about that one was, those are hard to come by. And I was walking down Yonge and Bloor Street in Toronto, Canada. And we had just gotten word of it. And I'm walking down the street going, I got a gold record. I just got a gold record. And all of a sudden I went, now what the hell am I supposed to do? I've already achieved the goal that I set for myself. Now they're going to want me to be serious about what I'm doing. So it's like, well, you really have to change gears.
Your next goal would have been for that gold to turn platinum for you.
That would have been nice, but unfortunately it didn't get that far. Dan and I had more luck on the radio than we actually did on selling a lot of things. So we definitely sold, got paid really good money, and it kept the career going, but we were just not considered an album group, which was kind of sad because I thought there were some very good songs on the albums.
For me, John, I will say one thing that I disagree, but because you guys, every honky tonk, every roadhouse, okay, every cut and shoot, chicken wire club, blues bar, every place I went, I kept running into your music. Okay. That's from cool. South Mississippi, all over the state of Texas, Oklahoma, on up to over to the Southeast. Your stuff was everywhere. So people were loving it. People were listening to it because that's when you still had jukeboxes and people were slinging them coins. And the thing is, your stuff was on repeat. So when you tell me that your sales weren't there on the mechanical side, that's telling me that the marketing team wasn't where they were supposed to be on that, because that's their job, is to sell it. Y'all brought the jewelry. The people got to sell the diamonds.
Well, I think the day that they were supposed to be selling our records, because again, my attitude towards the guys in the record industry is they pretty much just want to sell something, and they don't care whether it's records or pool tables or toilet seats. They just want to sell something. I think they were probably selling pool tables the day they were supposed to be selling our records,
Understood. Yep.
Gold record is 500,000 copies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you the funny thing. At one point, I was gone. The career was done. And so I thought I would go and get into the A&R position in a record company. And I was living in Los Angeles, and I went into Arista Records. And the guy that was the head of A&R, he ended up being the guy that did all the James Cameron, Titanic music, that kind of stuff, Terminator. And so he said, John, he says, I don't know whether you would fit here or not. And I said, no, man, I know stuff. And he said, no, he said, you're close to 40. He said, I'm 32. They consider me a dinosaur around here. And he says, I'm going to tell you exactly how important music is in our lives. And I went, oh, this is going to be good. Okay, soak this up. Let's see what he's got to say. And he said, you know that 500,000 copies is considered a gold record. in the music industry. It's $1 million worth of sales. And he said, we think we're hot stuff when we sell a gold album. We make parties. We congratulate ourselves. Everybody's patting one another on the back. He said, but this is how important music is. He said, in Los Angeles, right out that window, there's over 8 million people in Los Angeles alone. There's 290,000 at that time, 300 million people in the United States. And we think we're hot stuff because we can sell 500,000. He says, most of the time we can't even sell 100,000. And at that point, it was like, holy cow, John, you got lied to. You've been living this lie, thinking that you've accomplished. It's like, okay, I get it now. So it kind of is a really big reality check. And that's one of the things that I've appreciated more than anything else is those reality checks in the music industry.
You don't listen to him though. Your 500,000 copies is a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal, but in the fact that we place ourselves in a superior position, that's a little bit iffy, you know.
You're right.
It's an attitude adjustment because again we begin to think we're something we're not, and that was the one thing that was very eye opening to me. In any business, there's always somebody that better. There are people. When I came to Nashville, I laughed myself silly. I discovered that I was a guitar owner, not a guitar player. I owned a bunch of guitars, but I heard these guys play, and I'd go, I don't know, maybe I can get a job with the state of Tennessee. They'll play you under the table and make you look like a fledgling neophyte. So it was a very eye-opening and appreciated experience.
So I've always wanted to know something about those records. So if you flip it over the other, it truly has another side to it.
I think so, yeah, because it's a record that they've taken from somebody and they've done it in a gold manner. And
so my next question was, would it actually play if you put it on a record player? So I guess in that aspect, it probably would.
I have no idea. That's a good question.
It would if it's the coating that would keep it because it's coated. So that would probably change it. But other than that, it is an actual record and it would actually play if it wasn't coated.
It's like it says that it plays, I'd really love to see it at night, but probably if you put it down on with that coating and stuff, you get smoke on the water.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
Well, that was something else I always wondered, if they would actually just slap a label on a blank or like a dummy record to where that's not really, I really love to see you tonight. You know what I'm saying? Just,
There's one thing I want to add to what John was saying, because you said we're really not that special if we have 500,000. When you look at the money, especially back in the 80s and the 90s, that the labels, majors were spending, they controlled the entire market. They controlled it. Radio controlled the entire market. All right, they had a budget that was larger than most small countries to break something. So once you factor all this in, you own the horse track, you own and have access, you ensure that only your owned ponies get access to the track. Once you have all of this, it's not on the artist. The artists always try to put that on themselves. They're a diamond, whether they're in the dirt or whether they're in the jewelry store. A diamond is a diamond. And you have these people that have unlimited up in bats. And in the most kind way I can put it, they can't break wind, much less an artist. Right. And they end up, and then they make you feel bad because they're bad at selling. Right.
Well, the thing is, like, and you never know. Timing is probably one of the most important factors as well. When you have a Garth Brooks who makes mega millions of dollars on Friends in Low Places, but you realize that Mark Chestnut did that song prior to him doing it, and he probably sold $1.98. It's you kind of go, okay, whatever. How do you deal with that?
Yep. Timing is a lot. I mean,
yes.
Walk down the soda aisle, and there you got 500 types of sugar water. but one is outselling the other. So it comes down to people hear with their eyes.
Yep.
People are going to, it's marketing. So what gets people to buy rubies over diamonds or topaz? They're all gemstones, and so that's where I come back. I used to wear that big boat anchor around my neck going, well, we came in short, but now with hindsight, and so many amazing, incredible artists that we both know. No, bro. And you and Dan did some amazing stuff that still resonates.
We had a great run, but I tell you, the thing that I've kind of looked at for the last several years, and I've talked to other artists about it, because again, they're trying to figure out how we were able to come back around again. So they do the yacht rock. And the only conclusion we've really been able to come up with is the fact that it was a song. Now, you were talking about listening to the radio all the time. When we were younger, it was all about the song. You might know the Stones, you might know the Kinks, you might know some of the big names, the Beatles, but by and large, it wasn't about the artist. It was about the song. Now, it's about the artist and the song suffer. Because the artist is singing, where only dogs can hear, for crying out loud, and you can't sing that, so you lose the melody. We had the melodies. And when people talk about the kids coming up to YouTube and coming to the concerts, it's the song, it's the melody, it's the memory that's associated with that melody.
Yes.
And you can sit there and you're not going to forget that, Bobby stood you up on prom night. You're going to remember those things. Now everything's streaming. We also had the good fortune of having, because again, we were the breakfast generation. We had cereal boxes that we read, we were eating.
Yes, breakfast. Sir.
Same thing with the albums, and even some to a large degree with the CDs. You had liner notes. This song was written by so-and-so. This is the story behind that song. Here's the lyric to that. You don't have any of that now. It's just you're on your own. And I think that that's one of the reasons why these songs are making such a resurgence.
You nailed something, and I think they say, is it the song or is it the artist? And I would say yes, because I think what you just said is exactly right, 100%. It was all about a song, but at the same time, if you consistently keep getting a song that keeps coming from an artist. Yeah. At that point, now that artist has built their official brand.
That's
George
true.
Strait did it. Rolling Stones did it. Dan Seals and England Dan and John Ford Coley did it. Okay, you get these guys, if you consistently prove that you're not a one-off, God bless them, the Spin Doctors had one amazing song and then went in the witness protection program. There's ain't everybody like that, though. You know what I'm saying?
I do know. We do have a lot of one-hit wonders, but I tell you, some of those songs, I even have a newfound respect for the one-hit wonders, because that one song causes them to continue a career forever, and people will sit through all the other things that they play on stage just to hear that one song.
Vanilla Ice. Yeah, people, I watch people, they're all doing bobbleheads. They're all just sitting there. But then the minute you hear that pressure, you hear that dun, 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 everybody loses their mind, right? Yep. And so, yes, one hit. But if you have one hit and another hit and another hit and another hit, bop is killer. Bop, that was something, that I was coming out of high school. I was right out of high school when that hit. And there ain't anybody with a pulse that wasn't bobbing their head to that all over the state of Texas, Yeah,
there are some songs that immediately I hear that very first chord. You hear the first chord, and I immediately hit the radio button, turn it up.
Yes, sir.
It's coming, and it motivates you. There's a real motivation that I get from watching other people on YouTube. I find a lot of people on YouTube that I had never found. I've got a friend in Texas, and we will periodically throw things at one another musically. And she's like 20 years younger than I am. So she was raised in the 80s doing all of that. And one day we were just sending stuff in. So I thought I'd throw a joke in. and I threw in Cherry Pie by Warrant.
Yep.
That's the only song I knew of these guys.
Yep.
She turns around, throws back to me from Warrant, one called Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yep.
I listened to that and went, holy cow, you put
The Down Boys, Heaven. Warren had like 5 big songs on that dirty.
But I wasn't a kid of the 80s.
Exactly.
I was of the 60s and 70s. So I'm still trying to hang on to that. And I listened to a bunch of stuff. I got a very close friend, the girl who gave me the shirt, Cherie Curry from the Runaways.
I was getting to that.
We just spent this last weekend together, and I see her every time I go into LA. And she had Cherry Bomb, that big song in the 70s, 80s era.
My wife loves that song.
And all of a sudden I find a whole new bunch of people that I had completely bypassed. And they just really opened me up to, you know what? This was really good stuff.
Absolutely. Me and my wife went and seen, we took my daughter and her friend. They were like probably 10 at the time. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts came to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and we went and see them. And the younger kids that were there and the younger kids that were bobbing that head and playing the air guitar, I was like, the 80s, man, it's all about the 80s.
Yeah.
My 8-year-old grandson loves the 80s. It doesn't matter what's playing, he wants to hear those 80s. He is all about it.
There was some good music. We pass up a lot of stuff. I'm very eclectic in the taste that I have. As a matter of fact, one of the funniest and most memorable stories for me was when Dan and I were first recording on the first album on A&M. We had an engineer. His name was Henry Lou. Henry was German, and he would come in and then he'd go meditate for a while, and then he'd come back and he'd go meditate for a while. And so one day I get into the studio first for the session, waiting for the session. Henry comes in, he's fixing all the gear. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he turns to me, and this was the brilliance and the greatness of being able to be in Los Angeles, where everything was happening in the late 60s, early 70s. I'm sitting there, and he goes, "John, who do you like?" And I said, musically, I said, "Henry, I don't really, go with a lot of the standard stuff that you hear. I like people that are a little bit unique and maybe a little bit odd." And he said, "Like who?" And I said, "Okay, there's this one girl just blows my socks off. Have you ever heard of a girl by the name of Joni Mitchell?" Mm-hmm. And he looked at me like a cow at a new gate. And he says, "You're kidding me, right?" I said, "No, man." I said, "Have you heard this girl? She is absolutely staggering." And he said, "John, I'm her producer. She's recording over in Studio C on Saturday. Come over."
Wow.
So I come over there. I miss James Taylor by about 10 minutes. He had just recorded or finished recording on A Case of You on the Blue album, one of her finest masterpieces. I go in and meet her and sit and watch her record 2 songs. The last time I saw Richard and All I Really Want on a dulcimer, which I'd never seen before. And I'm just in heaven. The kind of musicianship and people that were coming out during that era, you couldn't match them. You could not match them. And they were everywhere. Our first deal, when we played, we'd finished our record. So they're releasing our very first England Dan and John Ford Coley record. We're playing with Carole King at the Troubadour for a week. I'm sitting on the stage looking down at people, and I don't react. I never react. Something will happen, and I'll just go, So I looked over, and I see this woman, and I went, "That looks like Judy Carn from Laugh-In." I went, "Huh." A little bit later on, I'm looking over, and I see Barbra Streisand, and I went, "Barbra Streisand, huh?" And it was just like that. But we had the opportunities. They were there. Everywhere you turned, you ran into somebody. Now, the thing that I loved about Nashville was that the people that come to Nashville, if you see somebody, you don't run up to them. You don't gurm them. You just kind of shake their head, and they'll nod you back. I had that happen with oh God, I can't think.
They don't know what Gurn means, John. Tell me what
No,
Gurn means.
but the thing is that they're just very, very polite, because again, you see these people, you recognize they've done something, and you want to shake their hand. I want to shake their hand because again, I want that to rub off on me. But seriously, seriously.
Wow, man, that is crazy. When did you guys? You said y'all switched band names a lot. When did y'all settle on England Dan and John Ford Coley?
Well, actually, we started off with Collie Wayland. Wayland was Dan's middle name, and then we went. I forget what else we went to, but then Jimmy Seals, who was Dan Seals' older brother, he remembered that Dan used to mimic the English accent when the Beatles came out. If you've ever heard a Texan attempt to mimic any accent other than maybe Alabama, I mean, it's comical,
It is.
And so he said, England Dan. And then we'll go John Ford Coley. We'll drop an L out of Coley. And then it's almost like Red Foley. And then like John Ford, the director. Well, when he said John Ford, my mind immediately flipped into the Battle of Palmetto Ranch, where John Rip Ford, who gathered so many of the ashes of the men at the Alamo, and they're in the San Fernando Cathedral in San Antonio. That was how that name came about, and it stuck, and it was the greatest blessing. I'd kiss Jimmy on the head and both cheeks if I saw him right now for giving me that name, because it has been the glue, not only for me, but for the group. I have people sometimes, they'll go, and your name is, and I go, John Coley. And they go, as in John Ford Coley? I go, greatest gift I ever got.